Alright everyone, so welcome to our lesson for today. We're going to take today and tomorrow to talk about the Holocaust. We're going to break this up into two parts. The first part will be today. Alright, so here's our objectives and standards: to analyze the problems that face German Jews in Germany and summarize attempts to resist persecution. So take a moment here to read over the standards as well. And our desired result: how did persecution begin against certain people? Vocabulary: the Holocaust, the mass murder of the Jewish and other groups declared to be inferior by the Nazi Party. Genocide is the mass murder of people of a certain group, and ghettos, segregated Jewish areas established by the Nazi Party. So the horror begins. In 1933, we know that Hitler took control in Germany. One of the first things that he did was he ordered the removal of all non-Aryans from government jobs. So Aryans were people of pure German descent, so he removed anyone who was not of pure German descent, basically, from all government jobs. And this is going to be his first step towards a policy of racial purity that would lead to the Holocaust. And the Holocaust was the murder of 11 million people, more than half who were Jewish. So laws will begin to discriminate. In 1935, the Nuremberg laws are enacted, and these laws strip the Jewish of their citizenship, jobs, and their property. Those of the Jewish faith were also required to wear the bright yellow Star of David to identify them. And here's an example of one here, down here in the corner from Germany and Poland. They also had Kristallnacht, which is the night of broken glass. So what you'll see here is this was a night that people went out and pretty much rioted and broke the windows of Jewish businesses. They burned homes and synagogues and businesses of Jewish people. So again, this was Kristallnacht, and this was the night of broken glass. And these are just some examples. So again, some persecution and some action taken against the Jewish, as you can see here in these pictures. So the refugees. The Nazi Party wanted to kick people out of Jewish people out of Germany. The problem was that many countries did not want to accept them. So Jewish refugees are going to flee to other countries, some of them, but many of them refused. An example of this actually happened in the United States as well with the St. Louis. This was a German ocean liner that was carrying Jewish passengers past Miami in 1939. And when the ship tried to unload the passengers, the U.S. Coast Guard refused any passengers from leaving the ship, and therefore the ship was forced to return to Europe. Hitler's plan. By 1939, there was going to be less Jewish people in Germany. Again, some had fled to other countries, some had been persecuted against. However, the countries that Hitler had conquered had millions of Jewish in them, so he becomes obsessed and wants to rid all of Europe of the Jewish people forever. And he calls his plan the final solution. And this was a policy of genocide, or a deliberate way of killing an entire population. So the fate of others. Hitler wanted to create a superior race of Germans. So to achieve this, he would need to get rid of those that he deemed weak or inferior. Some examples were gypsies, Freemasons, and Jehovah's Witnesses. Anyone who was a homosexual, anyone who was mentally deficient or disabled, the physically disabled, and anyone who was chronically ill. And this also included the Jewish, communists, socialists, liberals, or anyone who was against the Nazi Party as well. So he began his plan in Poland, and what he had was these things called the SS, or security squadrons, and they would round up Jewish men, women, children, and babies and actually execute them. Another way of persecution was the ghetto. The Jewish were also forcibly moved to ghettos. You'll see an example of the outside of one there in the picture. Excuse me. And these are areas that were sealed off with barbed wire and stone walls. and they were overcrowded, and the living conditions were terrible, and many people were forced to work in factories. Now, despite all this persecution, there was some Jewish resistance as well. Some Jewish resisted the tactics of the Nazis through different ways. One of these ways was they formed secret groups of resistance. Others published newspapers or set up musical or theater groups. And some even sent their children to Jewish schools to still be educated, despite, Jewish children not really being allowed to go to school. All right, so that's all I have for this lesson. Next time we'll look at some of the more horrible ways and the ways that Hitler is going to go to, and the means that Hitler is going to go to actually exterminate the Jewish people, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow a little bit. All right, so I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, and talk to you soon.